It's time for today's episode of the UGA Sports Live Podcast, recorded in front of a slightly tipsy studio audience at world-famous Champy's Fried Chicken. We will have the latest on Georgia Bulldogs football, basketball, and recruiting. Watch live and send us your questions on the 11 Alive Sports page on Facebook. Be advised this podcast is off the record and not safe for work. Also, be sure to subscribe to the UGA Sports Live Podcast on iTunes and Google Play.
Everybody, welcome to the UGA Sports Live Podcast. We are here live at Champy's on Baxter Street. I'm joined by Jim Donnan, former UGA head coach, Hall of Fame inductee, one of the best has ever done it. My name's Radi Nabulsi. I work at UGAsports.com. Busy day at UGAsports.com. It's early signing day. Although, Coach, I think this is going to become signing day, and then the old signing day, the February one, will become late signing day, kind of like they have in basketball. Basketball did that switch. So it's really, and Kirby addressed this in his press conference, it's such a bad time for the coaches. They're trying to get ready for the bowl. They're trying to find out which juniors are going to stay. They're trying to find out who's going to transfer. It's just a really, really awkward time of year to have this signing day. Kirby did not seem very excited about it. He's excited about the day, but the timing of it just seems awkward. But I think it's here to stay.
Yeah. I think the bottom line for that, Roddy, is just the fact that the what-ifs are out there. And roster management is so critical, having only really a lot to draw from. You got to look at different things when I say having only. I mean, like you mentioned, but the 85 is very fluid at this point from the standpoint. I'll hit you real quick. Let's just say a guy is a senior and probably is not going to be drafted. If he doesn't graduate mid-year, he's still going to count against the 85 until he graduates in the spring because he's taking up scholarship count. But a senior that would possibly be drafted might drop out of school and train with a personal trainer or go to, get ready for the combine, then you can take his scholarship and use it for early enrollee, from the standpoint of everybody's starting to trend toward there. A lot of these guys like to come in early. I think last year we had 9. This year we might have up to 10 or 11. So How do you get that balance of, let's just say you're a great player, which you were over at the Conyers, and you're ready to come in at mid-year and you want to sign with Georgia, but we're saying, hey, well, we want you to come, but you can't come in at mid-year because we don't know if we have the scholarship. Like Justin Fields' scholarship right now, what's his situation? I mean, a lot of these guys are up in the air, so you couple that with the fact that all these guys are getting recruiting and you lose some at the end and you get some in the end, and it's just a real back-and-forth paper chase to see who's going to be ready. And what you see here at the end is sometimes a guy might fall in your lap because somebody can't take a guy early and he wants to go early, or a guy might take a guy that's getting ready to go somewhere, and has been told that maybe he's going to be the man, and then they hear some transfers coming in and he falls in your lap. So, hey, it goes back and forth.
Well, speaking of things falling in your lap, you mentioned Justin Fields. He may or may not be transferring. That's kind of up in the air. But what did Kirby Smart and those guys pull off this morning? We're still waiting to see if this goes through. There was a quarterback committed to Ohio State, been committed there for quite a while. Guy is the number 2 dual-threat quarterback in the nation. Okay, this is not like just some scrub. It's a big-time guy. Dewan Mathis. Huge kid, very big, 6'4", 200 pounds, great arm, can run, dual threat guy. We break the story at UGA Sports last night, not the story, but the note, hey, Georgia's in on this guy. We hear this at UGA Sports, and sure enough, this morning, when he's going through his announcement ceremony, he says he's coming to the University of Georgia. Now, we're still waiting to see his LOI come in, and nothing's official until that LOI is signed, and, you see it from the main Georgia account.
I thought it was in. I mean, somebody told me it was in. Is it not in yet?
I have not seen it yet. So
maybe
but you're way up on me.
No, I mean, I am not. I'll tell you, this is the least qualified guy you can have with all the people you have. I mean, I know a lot about recruiting, but I don't know. I don't talk to our coaches.
But see, none of us have been in the war room and have been through this.
I don't really talk specifically to our coaches about this because it's not fair for me to have that kind of knowledge and talk about it. But I do feel like that in this case, I know the kid was here in the summer and, worked out for us, and he has some family in this area. So that helps a little bit. And, if I'm if I'm recruiting against Ohio State, I'm going to say, hey, Justin Fields is definitely coming to you. You don't want.
He's gone. He packed his bags.
I don't know about that.
He hadn't been here for 6 months.
But you use that and just say, hey, it's a pretty good shot at that. And the kid, to me, I mean, it's a golden opportunity. Come in here and learn under Jake and be around their coaches and get some good playing time, because we're gonna run roughshod through some of these teams next year, and it'll be good for him to get some experience. And
you get that good class separation. That was the problem with when you have Jacob Eason, Jake Fromm, Justin Fields, five-star,
well, it is.
back to back to back.
It
That's
is,
tough.
but you got to take the guys, though. And, things didn't work out as good as we'd hoped. We'll just have to talk about it on the next show, because until the guys actually left, I don't really want to go over that. But we got Jake for 2 more years.
Even if he stays, you still have that log jam.
That's good, but you got that a lot of places, though.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of quarterbacks. But we got Jake for 2 more years, and he'll hopefully keep training.
Unless he goes pro.
Well,
I don't think he will. This is a team guy. You cannot tell me Jake Fromm is not going to come back for his senior season to lead his football team.
He's just going to have a legacy here, being the most wins and the best quarterback here. But I think Jake's got some limitations as far as a pro quarterback. He would tell you that. And, he needs to develop. I mean, he doesn't throw the ball that well when he's out of the pocket. He doesn't throw the ball with a lot of velocity and a lot of drive on it. And he knows that. He's got to work on it. He's got a smaller hand. And but I guarantee you, for him to stay here the next 2 years will be beneficial in hopefully getting drafted a higher position, but also just to keep leading our team. I mean, he's done so much for our team, and, I think his future's really bright at Georgia. I don't know about professional football. I'm not enough to know what they want now, but I do know that I've had 3 first-round draft choices and 6 other guys play quarterback in the pros, and he's got some work to do to be a high draft choice, that's for sure.
You talk about, we have Jake Roos is normally with us. You say the guys that we have that know this recruiting, they know the ins and outs of it. The reason they're not on today's show is because they're out working. The guys at UGASports, Trent.
But you're not actually working. They are.
I never work, Coach. I mean, my job is to sit here, like someone said last night, and tell people to go to Air and Overhead Doors. That's my own job.
You're doing good, but these guys are out getting all the scam.
Yeah, they're the ones that are breaking news about, Zach Calzada, and Georgia. It's the recruiting guys at UGASports that kind of broke the news that Justin Fields is looking around just because Georgia was looking for another quarterback, and they were the ones that told us, hey, there's another quarterback coming. And again,
you were the one that broke it that Luke Ford might be transferring too, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, but
so
that's a team guy.
If you don't have a subscription to this place, you need to be listening, because you know everything.
Speaking of which, you only have 2 more days to get that $99 free gear deal. So if you're a new subscriber, you can sign up and get $99 in UGA hats, T-shirts, polos, book bags, whatever you want. New subscribers get that. If you are a monthly subscriber, you can also upgrade and get that deal. $99 in free gear. It ends Friday, or unless they run out of codes. And we have sold hundreds upon hundreds of them, so they are going quick. Jump on it. But Jake Roos, Trent Smallwood, Paul Meharry, Patrick Garvin, those guys have been absolutely killing it. All the recruiting updates. And they're working.
The stats guru, he's helping us too,
Dave
right?
McMahon over there. I mean,
he's got his own logo now, stats guru. He got a license plate now that says on the back of his car, he's the guru. He's the man.
Yeah, you have to go to UGASports and read all of Dave McMahon's articles too.
I actually saw him at the basketball game last night. He was a stats guru there working for Dantzler. I mean, today he was over someplace at breakfast counting how many times people were eating pancakes. I mean, he does it all.
Well, if he comes to my house when I'm eating pancakes, that'll be in the hundreds. So we
got Trey Sanders coming up here in a little bit. I hate to watch that, really.
Yeah, Trey Sanders, the number 1 running back according to Rivals.com. He is a extreme talent. A lot of people, including members of my staff, predicted him to Georgia today, but I think we got word earlier this morning that is not going to happen. It happens, and this is why when I mentioned I keep losing my train of thought because there's so much going on, Coach. I mentioned the fact that we have those recruiting guys. They're out working. They're not on the show because they actually have to do a job, and you give them all the credit in the world, and I appreciate that. But the reason I'm glad to have you on, you've been in this war room. You've gotten that call, hey, Coach, I'm coming. Hey, Coach, I'm not coming. I think Georgia got the call earlier this morning from Trey Sanders saying, I'm not coming. What is signing day like for a head coach?
Well, it's like that kid that went out to the mall that told me there was chaos with a capital K. Seriously, it is a situation where you might have a guy that you think you can get, but you might not get him. But you got a guy that wants to come that if you don't tell him something, he's going to go somewhere else. It's that close right now with some of those guys. And, we've had it over the years where we had some fall in our laps and some fall out. So it's definitely a harrowing situation because you can't look at the kids face to face after Sunday. I mean, all you do is talk to them and text them and everything. So, but it's been a tough situation for Trey. I mean, he's got some great, opportunities. Looking at two best programs in the SEC for sure, two of the top 5 teams in the country, and sometime you get a guy like we got White last year, and maybe this year we won't get Sanders, but we got a good backup here, a good base of guys going for us.
Look at this running back room. You got DeAndre Swift. He's okay. He's not too bad. You probably have Elijah Holyfield. I know I ran into him the other day. He has not made a decision. Of course, that's been a while back. Maybe he's made one by now. I don't know. But I think if I had to guess, I think he was leaning towards coming back. He's pretty talented. James Cook is lights out. You got Zamir White. Again, remember, you pulled in 2 5-star running backs last year. Who does that? No school has pulled in 2 5-star running backs. I think one other school in the history of the Rivals era has pulled 2 5-star running backs in the same class. You get James Cook, Zamir White. Zamir's, from all accounts that we're hearing, he's healing well. He's on schedule, if not ahead of schedule. We know that Zamir is a transcendent back, and you just hope he comes back healthy. But James Cook was tearing it up. Those 4, and then you're going to have Kenny McIntosh come in, and Kenny was not supposed to sign. Yeah, we heard he was going to sign in February. He was one of the first ones to go out the gate this morning. Kenny McIntosh,
big strong kid.
Big strong kid. He's a bruiser. Again, another guy. If he was running between the hash marks at Rockdale Canyon High School back in 1989, I'd have ducked. I'd have pulled up a hammy. It would have been one of those fake injuries would have popped up. Not a guy I'd ever want to tackle. And that, even as it stands right now, that's one heck of a running back room. And Brian Herring, if he sticks around, of course he could be a grad transfer somewhere else. We haven't heard anything to that effect yet, but I mean it's a possibility. But still, even if he stays or goes, that running back room is ridiculous behind one of the best offensive lines in the nation. Shout out to Oklahoma for winning the best offensive line award back-to-back years.
Yeah, that's such a tough deal to pick one line over the other. They're all good, but here's the thing about it: there's quality players everywhere, and there's going to be ups and downs with all the fan base about who you lost, and there's so many times you talk about who you lost instead of who you got. But we really have supplemented our team, particularly at linebacker, in position of really need, with the 2 freshmen we got here and now these other 4 guys coming in to go with our bigger defensive front guys and the secondary that we're building up pretty well. So that's going to be our defense is going to really make a big jump from last year to this year, I think, particularly in the back end, with our perimeter play. I think it'll be a lot better.
And I also want to point out that no matter what happens today, Georgia is not done recruiting. We actually watched a live stream provided by our Miami site. Shout out to Gary down there, our Kane Sports. He went over to Tariq Stevenson's high school. They had a big ceremony down there in Miami. And he basically filmed 45 minutes of all these kids committing to different schools, saw that.
What did Stats have to say?
Stats McMahon tells us that Dwayne Mathis has officially signed with the University of Georgia.
Well, I mean, what did I say?
I'm sorry for doubting you, Coach. I'm sorry for doubting you.
When in doubt, call it out, man. Hey, thanks for the Guru. Hey, thanks for backing me up, Guru.
It just happened.
The only thing I had coming in here in my hip pocket that I knew, and you still doubted me because you go with those guys that like Trey and Trent and all those guys that really know a lot about recruiting. The old coach here ain't no dog.
And why do we have you on the show? So, yes, shown up yet again by Coach Donnan. But
No, I tell you how I found out. I was walking in this place, and this guy was walking around with his dog, listening to something. And he said, "Did you hear that this kid was coming in here from Ohio State?" I said, "No, what's his name?" And he said, and he went through everything about it. And then the dog said, "Yeah, he signed his letter."
You had me going there. I was like, how did he know before I did? Damn dogs everywhere. So Dwayne Mathis is in, but
that is a heck of a lick. Now, you talk about our quarterback situation going really in a tough situation there. And I've told you this other kid, you always remember his name, the guy that's our third guy that played a lot last year. I like him. I watch him practice. The kid that walked on, he's got a lot of talent. He could get you through a game in a New York minute. He can run the show.
Yeah, I'm thinking if you go from –
Tell me his name. That kid, what? Stats. Hey, what's that kid's name that played in the mop-up roles for us at quarterback this year? The guy that ran the mop-up roles for us, Downing. Yeah, Downing.
Matt Downing. Sorry, Matt.
Matt, I know your name. I know 17.
No.
Hey, he's a good player.
He scored a couple touchdowns for you.
And he's solid now.
If Justin Fields leaves, you lose last year's number 1 dual threat quarterback, and you replace him with the number 2 dual threat quarterback this year. And again, that's ratings are overrated. And I know, yes, I work at Rivals.com. We make our living based on rankings of where kids are going to go. You're hearing it from me. Do not put too much stock in the rankings because it's a best guess. You don't know
unless the guy's a one-star, one-legged player.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. But, certain players, you look at him, you're like, that kid has it. You know he's going to be good. When you watch James Cook in practice and nobody can catch him, you're like, okay, that guy's pretty good. Yeah. But how do you know if he's a high 4-star, low 5-star? Yeah. It's impossible. But I want to say if – you find out you're losing Justin Fields. If he transfers, if he stays, great. You need 4 quarterbacks. You only got 2 right now. So getting
and Downing.
So you got 2 scholarship guys. You'd like to have 4. Kirby said he wants 4 at a time. You need.
Well,
them
here's
to get
the reason
spring.
you need them. Not only to play in the games and all that, but you got to train your team. I mean, you just can't. You say a guy's down out there at practice, but you got to get your defensive team ready as far as throwing the ball. You got to rush the passer. You got to do all those things. And if you only got 1 quarterback, his arm's going to be dead.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful about.
Well, that's why I said you need them. You need them at least for spring. That's why they're so gung ho on getting an early enrollee, a guy that can be here. 2 weeks, a week?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't take another one early enrollee. I don't know who it's going to be, but hey, get a guy in here, train him in case somebody gets hurt, get a JUCO kid, whatever it might be. But
maybe a grad transfer who wasn't.
But I would say this before it gets off my train of thought, because I can't remember things like I used to. But the biggest part of recruiting now, as far as ratings compared to what it used to be, is everybody's got so much more info. You got instantaneous situation. You can go on your site or Huddle, and you can watch a kid on tape instead of hearing that JoJo was a 4-star player over in Louisiana. You can go right there and watch him, and as a novice or as an advanced person looking at it, you can see the skills of why that person was being recruited, as compared to a guy running out for his senior day, and he runs through the thing where they hold up the thing, and then he falls down and can't get through it. So you don't want to
can't break the paper.
You don't want to. You don't want to recruit that guy. But
I will tell you this: I have seen that. I think it was East Hall High School or North Hall High School. First guy came through. He tried to rip the paper as much as possible, and he spun around, fell down. The 8 guys behind him all tripped over it. And it wasn't – I mean, he's a good player.
Didn't look good.
It did not look good.
It's not a real – you wouldn't want to put that on your highlight tape.
Yeah, they wound up, I think, getting beat like 55-0. I left in the middle of the third quarter. But point being, it does happen. But the point I was trying to get to, the things I forget, Georgia's recruitment does not end today. You can't say this is the end of the class because we had a Rivals guy at Tariq Stevenson.
When's he signing?
He's signing announcing on January 5th. Now, here's the thing. He may sign somewhere, and they keep it quiet. On January 5th, Tariq Stevenson down out of Miami, he will be announcing at the All-American game. It used to be the Army All-American game. Now I think it's just the All-American game out in Texas. He will be announcing, as will Jaden Hazelwood, the nation's number 2 wide receiver.
You know, something else that I think that you brought up that I could see happening here that I forgot to bring out at the first. You must have said it 3 or 4 times to me off the air and other. It's Stetson Bennett. He's a guy we know could play quarterback.
Yeah.
He's a JUCO guy. What might happen with him? I mean, Kirby. Hey, look at that kid. I mean, but really,
They call him Johnny Football on the team.
But did he have a good year?
Yes, he had a fantastic year.
Well, we might take somebody.
He scored a lot of touchdowns.
At least we know.
Running and throwing.
At least we know his strengths and weaknesses. He won't have to teach him the system, and he's got one less guy ahead of him than he would have if he'd have stayed here. But I think that's just conjecture. So are we going to have some questions or updates?
We're going to have some questions. But first and foremost,
let's talk about who was bringing the show to us.
The first person to bring the show to us, of course, is always Champions. We're here at Champions on Back Street. Place is filled up. There are a ton of people eating fried chicken. We have a lot of UGASports.com subscribers here. I want to give a shout out to a couple of the guys here. Thank you so much for coming and watching the show. Also, thanks to 11 Alive. We got the 11 Alive news people here. Their man over there, Alex. Wolf down some chicken over there. He's no fool. That's why he's a TV celebrity, folks. He knows where to get a free meal. I hope it's a free meal. They better take care of him. So big shout out to 11 Live for letting us do this all year.
Pick it up.
Hey, dude, I'm rolling in the dough. I want to give a big shout out to Athens Ford. There is not a friendlier group of people, and they do more for their community that I know of than the Athens Ford folks. The 2018s are almost sold out. They sold a ton of those. The 2019s are on the on the lot. There are a ton of 2019s out there. I'm going to give you a big shout out to the sales staff there. I actually went out there, bought one this year. They took such good care of me. I'm sending everybody I know out there. If you want to support UGAsports.com and get all this great scoop, be sure to swing by Athens Ford. They're doing some stuff in the community right now. I think only one more day, maybe today was the last day, that you can actually go out there, and if you buy a vehicle, they will give a present to a kid in the local community. They shut it down a few days early because they have to deliver all those presents, and last I looked, they had tons of them because they sell a lot of vehicles out there. And also, just recently, I had to go get my oil changed. Great service bay out there. If you want, good Wi-Fi, a clean place to sit, something that doesn't look like it's covered in oil, a place that doesn't, it's like half-empty coffee cups everywhere.
Free drinks too, right?
Free drinks out there, free coffee, free Coke, whatever you want. Everything but a back rub. I knew you were going there. I knew where you were going. Everything but a back rub out at Athens Ford. They take great care of you. So, again, if you would take care of us by going out there, letting them take care of you, we would greatly appreciate that. Coach, this recruiting class right now is ranked number 2 in the nation. And you still have 5-star Jaden Hazelwood on the docket. You still have Tariq Stevenson. You might get him. Trey Sanders, I think.
What about Elam?
He's going down.
When's Elam coming?
Khair Elam, the cornerback, defensive back out of Florida. He is also going to announce in February. And you were mentioning other quarterbacks. There's still John Plumlee.
I like Plumlee. I think he's a team player, and they just said, "Hey, you don't need to sign today, and we can use your scholarship as." I don't know how they're using it as far as the future, but he could come in the summer after school starts and count towards the next year. And all of a sudden you have 3 or possibly 4. If you keep Justin Fields, you get Dwan Mathis, and you get Plumlee, now all of a sudden you're right at 4 quarterbacks, which is what Kirby Smart said he wanted. Again, to the coach's point, where you have a situation where they run duels. They have, throwing 2 spots.
2 spots over here. Another
one
spot
spot here and one there. Call it 2 spot.
Two spots where the quarterbacks are throwing to wide receivers, defensive backs are trying to guard them. And I remember going out there years and years ago, and it was only one, and so it was really easy for us as media folks to focus on the one quarterback. There weren't 2 different guys, but you got half as much practice in. Now when you do 2 spots, you're getting twice as much practice in a limited amount of time. So big shout-out to –
Plus you're developing depth and you're working more players, and that's just the way Kirby does it.
If you're the 4th or 5th string wide receiver, how many reps were you getting in that one spot thing? Not very many. And now you got 2 spots. Those guys are going all the time. But to do that, you need arms. And you can't be doing that with just one scholarship QB on staff, so on the roster. So that's pretty big. All right, we got Trey Sanders about to make his announcement here. He's got the Florida State, Florida, Texas, Alabama, and Georgia hat on there. ESPN has him as the number 2 ranked running back in the nation. We have him as the number 1 ranked running back.
His little brother's going to give him the hat to put on.
And he hands him the Alabama hat. So there it is. Trey Sanders to Alabama as expected. So
something really must have changed here between yesterday and today, but that's the way it goes.
What kind of legal machinations go down?
Could you explain that? What's that?
No, just the what's going on in that room where you have a kid tell you, I'm sure you've had this happen, Coach, I'm coming. He tells you that the night before. Then the next day he has to call you up or goes on TV and pick somebody else. What can happen in the last 24 hours?
You just never know what goes on behind the scenes. And, a lot of times kids, as we've talked about before, have a hard time telling you no.
Yeah, that's true.
And so rather than tell you no, they just say, hey, hey, I'm coming, and then they go somewhere else. But you can't worry about it. I mean, you do all you can. We got a tremendous recruiting staff. We got one of the best recruiting head coaches I've ever been around. And then position coach-wise, just the fact that you were in on a guy like that, considering what we have here and what we recruited the last couple of years, I mean, this Del McGee's just a phenom recruiter. And, he got us to the wire there with him. And, we had an Emory situation where, the whole state of Louisiana must have chipped in on that one. I don't know how that worked, but they got him down there too.
Yeah, and you have a situation when you look at a kid you had Emory committed for the longest time. We had not heard Trey Sanders' name. He's a kid that was not associated with Georgia in his top 2, top 3, top 5 very much until towards the end. And when your priority shift, in other words, when Georgia lost John Emory, the last thing a lot of us thought was, oh, well, they're going to go after the number 1 guy in the class, because it seemed like Georgia was on the outside looking in Trey Sanders' thing. And now, hey, they had a hat on the table. He's talking to Georgia coaches. He's giving them good vibes, like I'm coming. And it wasn't just us predicting that. I mean, everybody in the industry is predicting Trey Sanders to Georgia because it looked like Georgia came on strong. And sometimes a kid wakes up the morning of and says, no, I'm going where I was originally planning to go or something like that. Trade secret, folks, from somebody who's been doing this quite some time. Every once in a while, a kid will tell you where he's going. And you're like, that's where you're going. You're going to commit there. Yeah, I'm going to commit there Thursday. I'm going to commit there on signing day. You ask them, would you mind giving me a quote? Tell me why you picked that school. Or did you tell the coaches? Yeah, I told the coaches. They were excited. Can I quote you on that? Yes. We take those quotes. We write up a story. We hold that story. We embargo it. We're sitting on it. Doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen sometimes. And I can point to a couple – something about tight ends in Clemson. I don't know what it is, but I've had more than one tight end who's looking at Georgia and Clemson. Give me the story. Here are all the quotes about why I love Georgia and why I picked them. Okay, and we're going to run that story, and then the kid puts on a Clemson hat or an Alabama hat or something like that. It does happen. The coaches are told the kid's going there. The media's told. Everybody knows. His coaches at his high school have been told where he's going, and the kid goes somewhere else. It's the way the game's played. I'm sure the Ohio State coaches are wondering what the hell happened to their quarterback. They're like, Dwan Mathis, what do you just signed with Georgia? You told us you were coming here.
Things happen there, but I think what we need to do now is maybe project the rest of the guys left and also talk about this team that we got coming back next year. Man.
I want to just run down some of the guys that's signed with Georgia today. And if you just give me one thought about it.
Let's go. That's good. I mean,
Dominic Blaylock.
I can't say enough about his attitude and the kind of player, and he stuck by us all the way. He comes from a great family and just a tremendous slot receiver. He's going to fill in there right where Terry Godwin's played, and it really is the kind of guy that can make the plays when the band's playing. I'm high on Dom.
As a senior, 60 receptions, 8 touchdown receptions, 10 rushing TDs.
And it's big for him to play for Georgia. I mean, for him, he's embodied in the G. I mean, I don't know if he has any tattoos or anything, but he loves the G. That means a lot. Most of these guys do, but there's never been any doubt about this guy. He's Georgia all the way.
Very A.J. Green-like in his recruitment. Picked Georgia, stuck with him, no drama.
Yeah, he
comes to every game.
We're good. We're good there. Who's next?
Next up, Kenny McIntosh, running back out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the number 7 running back in the nation.
He just hammer and tong guy.
6 foot, 198 pounds.
He's going to really help us on short yardage, goal line, a power back that Coach McGee really likes, and he will. Not the real fast guy, but big enough speed to go with his size. So we're in good shape there because we need a larger back, take a little pressure off these guys on short yardage.
Micaiah Tongue out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Boy, I tell you what, the tape on him just jumps out you. His ability to play offense and defense. He'll be a big mover on special teams. He's got really good quickness to go with his size, and he stepped up on the table for us, in the state with a lot of pressure on him. So his dad's got good genes, being a ex athlete like he is, and I'm happy that we got the guy because you need to stay in Louisiana. I mean, you need to keep getting players out of there, and he's a good guy for us to have. I don't know where we'll put him, but he'll help our team in a lot of different areas.
You pulled Tongue out of Baton Rouge. I mean, that right there out of LSU's backyard. That's impressive. I'm going to tell you about a guy that I really like, Xavier Truss, offensive lineman out of Rhode Island, 6'7", and this is legitimate 6'7". This isn't the high school program 6'7". This guy is 6'7", 341 pounds. He is and bright. Oh man, he's a smart kid. What are your thoughts on that monster?
Yeah, I just like kind of a dancing bear type guy. He's got good feet to go with his size. He's kind of more of a project compared to a Andrew Thomas or Cade Mays as far as being ready right now. Yeah. Although he'll be able to come in and help us, but I just think his upside is so big, and that's the thing about these stars and all that. The allotment of them is you also, everybody's not going to be ready like Cox was, or some of these guys that jumped in there right away. You just gotta keep building, and I think as good as our line's going to be depth-wise, just like Jamari Sawyer, hey, everybody's saying what's wrong with him. Hey, I guarantee you he's going to continue to be right in the mix of things. He just wasn't ready. That doesn't mean he's not going to still be a great player. If you look at the prototype of him, and that's what I like about Truss. Big size, good feet. You got to have feet in college football. If you can't move around, and I think Ben Cleveland's certainly doing a lot better at that, but early on that hurt him a little bit, his lack of movement, and now he's gotten, a lot more savvy about him. But this is the same type of guy coming out of high school, I think, as Ben, but maybe a little bit better feet.
Yep. Size-wise, I agree with the feet. I've seen him move. We had him in camp. We had him in the Rivals camp. I think the dancing bear thing is pretty impressive. Another guy whose feet I like, Sam Pittman, when it comes to offensive line recruiting, has been a tornado. He picks up Warren McClendon out of Brunswick, Georgia, 6'5", 300 pounds.
Makes my mouth water.
I knew one of these guys was going to do it. I knew one of them.
I got a guy down in that area that played for me at Marshall, Jason Wellman, his son plays on the team, and he told me about this kid when he was a sophomore, and we were already on him, and we were talking to him then because our guys are on them so early now. It's, you don't miss anything. Yeah. That goes back to Marshall Malco, does a great job with our personnel and everything. But, when one of my players tells me something about somebody, that makes a little bit more of an imprint. Like last year, Terrence Edwards was telling me about the kind of quality kids 2 years ago, about the quality kids that Thomas and Salyer were over there at Pace, because he was around them, coaching them. That's good stuff to know, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so Warren McClendon. One more offensive lineman I got to ask you about or get your take on. 5-star interior lineman Clay Webb, 6'3", 290 pounds.
The fact that he jumped on the table for us and has already been over here for 3 or 4 days working a lot like Cade Mays did last year. The rules are such, if you can early enroll and your team's practicing for a bowl and you've already graduated, you can go out there and start that, but you can't play in the game. But he, from what I understand, has really looked good out there. They're not doing a whole lot with him, but could play center, could play guard. Very astute at picking up things, can be a captain-type player. Just a really big take. To get a guy like that out of the state of Alabama, a couple years ago, that would be mission impossible.
Well, you go back to Ben Jones, Chester, Big Cheese Adams, Mark Beard, Josh Ballou. it's tough to get a guy out of Alabama, but the ones you have got have been pretty impressive. And
I like your notes there, man. You did some prep for this game.
No, I didn't do any notes.
Where are you getting this stuff?
This is all from Dave. You know I don't do any work.
Guru, way to give it.
My job is to stand here and tell people to go to Aaron Overhead Doors.
You picked Josh Ballou out. Where's my notes, man? I gave you some love. I told you Guru. All right, go ahead. But I like that. Josh Ballou, he played for me.
There we go.
Josh was over there near that lake over there. Had a good house over the lake. I never forget. Drove up to the house. I thought I was going up to Hugh Hefner's house. Nice, man. That was beautiful.
Before we get past the offensive lineman, I do got to say one thing about Clay Webb. Technically, and again, I'm not a coach, but when I think about how you were supposed to play, how you're supposed to block,
good technician.
The technique. I've seen guys when he was a freshman. He was going up against 5-star defensive linemen, and he was shutting them down like a wall, just like Jamari Sawyer. Just a freak when it came to perfect position of his body. It's a mindset with him. He's like, you can't get by me.
Got a good
He's
base.
Square to him. His
Good
base is perfect, and he walls them off. And they try spin moves, they try swims, they try rips, they try hooks. Nothing works against him. Fantastic guy.
We had this line coach, Larry Bechtel, who said, you got to take short, choppy steps with a base and bite them in the – you can't say what, but just short, choppy steps.
He never overreached. He takes those short, choppy steps, and he's almost like a magnet the way he stays with people. It's freakish. So
Great.
Big fan of Clay Webb. Before we keep going on the list, like I said, my job, I have one simple job. It's basically tell everybody to go to our sponsors. I'm going to tell everybody to go to Aaron Overhead Doors, Ryan Lucia. They do a ton of charity this time of year. Yeah. So, again, you notice
they'd come to my house for charity?
They would come to your house.
Hey, seriously, you never know how bad it is till you can't get your garage door open.
Yeah, you're stuck inside, and especially if you have a medical issue or something like that, or you can't get inside and it's pouring down rain, or the little tabs on your car because the new cars you can pick up at Athens Ford, they have the little tabs in the visor that open your garage door. They can take care of that stuff. If your springs are messed up or your garage door is not working or the garage door opener, right. That's all stuff they can fix.
I tell you what, I found out a lot about this listening to you. I mean, all the little things that these guys do as far as being personalized and being a Georgia guy, number one.
He's
the fact
Georgia
he
guy.
loves the Dogs, but he really does a lot for the community, and he's got his own people that go out that've been with him a long time. You know, when you get service call, you want somebody out there that's going to not some Willie off the pickle boat coming in there to see you. You want some good guy, you know.
Well, you know what I want? I want a guy who's wearing the logo of the company, who works at the company.
Right.
And it's nothing against you independent contractors. I love you guys. You do wonderful work. But when I call Ryan Lucia at Aaron Overhead Doors, I want me to send him a guy that works for Ryan Lucia at Aaron Overhead Doors. And because then if he does something doesn't go right, I can call Aaron, and he doesn't go, oh, well, that was one of our contractors. He never has an excuse because they don't do anything wrong. They're 5-star rated across the board. So big shout out to them. Speaking of 5 stars, there's another 5-star we got to talk about, Nolan Smith.
Oh, you just take for granted Nolan. I mean, he's been on board for a long time.
First guy this morning.
But really, when you're the number one rated guy in the country at that position, because that is a difference maker position, an outside linebacker, defensive end, and to be rated number one in the country, that's a tall order. And this guy just got stud written all over him. I mean, he looks good in his uniform. He's been around good competition being down there at IMG. He's gotten great coaching, and he's going to be coming in there. You know, when I talked about our linebacker situation, so we've got a deal there where we've got Jermaine Johnson, who's the number one linebacker
outside linebacker,
in the JUCO, and then you had him and TM coming in, and hey, I mean, we got one more. Who's the other fourth one? Stats.
Trouble.
Who's it? Who?
Rion Davis.
Oh, Rion. We take away from him a little bit because you got their nicknames down too. You call him Trouble. I mean, you're on first name basis. Trouble, man. Hey, I'm Trouble. But seriously, he had a knee surgery, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
So.
And Tresman Marshall.
He might have
like you said, TM. You got their nicknames.
He might have to come across a little quicker. 3 of them than maybe Trouble will. But those are 4 good-looking kids, and you add those 2 that we got in Tyndall and Quay Walker. I mean, that's a good-looking room there.
And the next guy I was going to mention was Jermaine Johnson. I believe he's the number 2, if I'm not mistaken, number 2 overall JUCO player.
Number 1 linebacker.
Number 1 outside linebacker.
He's tall.
He is a tall drink of water. Yeah, long arms. I mean,
Yeah, you got Anderson.
When that
Cox,
swim comes over,
Bill.
it's long, and when he goes around. So we have them listed as defensive ends, and that can be the jack or the up-down. But I believe you got Jermaine Johnson and Nolan Smith as outside linebackers in the Georgia system, kind of your Davin Bellamy, Brenton Cox type, DeAndre Walker.
And Anderson. I mean, all those guys. I mean, we got a good situation there. And they think about it, you can't get enough guys like Tongue and Blaylock and these guys that are physical receivers and can play special teams. And you look at the impact our special teams have made the last 2 years, just been incredible. You got Holyfield covering punts. You got these guys blocking on the punt return team. And you need those athletes in space, and we get very few penalties on the special teams because we got athletes going down there not blocking them in the back.
Well, the reason I bring, where those two guys playing is because I want to talk about Zion Logue.
I tell you what a steal that is.
He's a D end, but I'm like, is he hand down D end or stand up?
Hey, he's only 17. I don't even know if he has his driver's license yet. I mean, I'm sure he does, but I mean, this kid
possibly the best player in the state of Tennessee.
Look at him on the eyeball and think about that guy being here with Scott Sinclair for a couple semesters.
6'6", 280.
I mean, good gracious, good job, Kirby. Good job, Coach Scott. I like potential as much as performance a lot of times. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And boy, this guy he jumps out at you watching him, and his enthusiasm. You listen to him talk and watch him on the. I mean, I like a guy that jumps across the screen at me. It's compared. Well, I think it's compared. He's got some. Yeah, he's got a lot
presence. He has presence.
He does. That's good.
So let's stay in the state of Tennessee. Talk about defensive linemen. You pull Zion Logue, one of the best in the state. One of the best has been in the state in a while. Then you go over to Memphis.
Norton.
And you still Bill Norton, 6'6", 265 out of
a lot of potential there. And as a lineman, who knows where he'll end up? But usually you put your best players on defense in high school first. Especially the big kids. And a lot of times those guys end up being O linemen. Look at Chris Terry here. He was a defensive lineman. And he move over, but we're going to give him a shot at the D line, but. I mean, when these guys are 6'6", they got a chance just rattling the box before they come in here, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And I like his attitude too. He's stuck up there a long time. And we got one more from Tennessee.
One more, Tymon Mitchell, 6'3", 285 pounds, defensive tackle. Your interior guy, I'm assuming.
I never will forget. Over there this summer, I went over to practice to just take an eyeball test at the younger guys, Right. And I was talking to Marshall Malco and about what was going on. And I really don't know the intricacies of what they do, But we were talking about D linemen at that time. He was talking about how hard it is to pick one up and find one, and then get them because of
Georgia's had a hard time last 2 years.
But he says, we're in the process. And he was talking about the one kid we're going to talk about down in South Georgia, this basketball.
Walther.
Yeah, and how good he was, and he thought we were going to get him. And then a couple years down the road, the kid over in Atlanta that's committed from
Trayvon Walker.
Right. So, but he did say we got another kid up in Memphis that we're going to look at tomorrow night. And make a decision because we want to watch him live. We've watched the tape. We want to watch, and then we'll know for sure how. Because he really looks good, but he hadn't been down here. He's been here, but we want to watch him with pads on and all that. And I said, well, that's pretty good. And then I saw him out there on Monday, and he said, hey, that guy jumped out at us when we watched him and everything. And I don't know that they went there or how they got what they did, but hey, it was good to hear that talk back and forth about how it was looked. So. They liked him in camp. They liked him on tape, and they went and watched him. And it doesn't make a ding-dong what everybody else thinks. If Marshall likes him and Scott likes him and Kirby Smart likes him, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, Kirby Smart has.
I'm not worried about what everybody else thinks about anybody. For you to get through the cracks here, if you got through the cracks here as a guy who couldn't play dead in the Western movie, you can't do that here.
No,
I mean, you got this guy hasn't got quite as much feedback as some of them, but I know just hopefully people listening to me will know how strongly they looked at this kid before they decided, and that was how they did it. That's pretty good stuff.
That is fantastic stuff. I mean, you were in the right place at the right time. You find out they're going to look at a guy, and they do, and sure enough.
But I didn't tell you
2 years later.
I didn't tell you.
Well,
no, but I wouldn't tell you.
You never tell us anything like that. Why do I even have you on the show?
I know it. I mean, I'm a fill-in, but one of the reasons is because I tell people to come to Champions, and I'm going to tell you this. Anybody that misses a chance to come here as a good Christmas present to somebody you really like, let's just say somebody in your family or somebody you work with, bring them down here to lunch or dinner, and they would think that's the best present they could get.
That's very true. Or you can swing by Your Pie, too.
Well, that's good. Or,
but the reason I say that is there's a new Your Pie opening in Ringgold, Georgia, so you can swing by there. They have
Are you going to do a book signing or anything?
No, I'm going to go up there. And I need to test at each one of these locations to be sure that they're doing it right. So,
well, you're definitely a testimony of good pizza.
Yeah, I am. I got that down. 60, I guess.
What's the favorite kind you eat?
Southern Heat.
Okay.
Southern Heat's my favorite. They had 58 locations. They're opening this one. They're opening them, it seems like every 15 minutes. I'm telling folks, if you want a great pizza, swing by Your Pie. If you want a great job, open one. Open Your Pie. Call Drew French. Call Natalie French. Again, a couple Georgia graduates, big Georgia fans. Drew would always come by wherever we were on signing day, but he's probably busy opening yet another restaurant. He'll be by here in February. He actually comes to the Champions all the time, and I know the Champions folks eat at Your Pie all the time. But if you get a chance, swing by Your Pie, and now you can actually order it online and go pick it up. It'll be waiting on you. It doesn't take long when you walk into the restaurant. It's kind of like that Subway style where you tell them what type of bread you want. In this case, crust. You tell them what sauces you want on it, all the different toppings. They'll put as many on there as you want. While you're paying, it's already in that huge high fire oven, and by the time you've got your drink and sat down, they're there like 2 minutes later with a piping hot pizza that's phenomenal. But if you don't have time to sit down, order it online, walk in like I do with Publix sandwiches. Yeah. That's pretty much
Publix one of your sponsors too?
No, I need them. Hey, anybody, if you know the Publix marketing people, tell them to give me a call. We'll work for sandwiches. They're good sandwiches out there. So moving from defensive end, defensive tackles, let's talk defensive backs. You were talking about how anybody that's down on Tymon Mitchell, he made it through the process.
Did we get the D lineman yet? Finish out. Did we talk about Trayvon?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was going to come back to him. But let's stick with him. Last guy, 4-star, 6'5", 270 pounds. Some places have him a 5-star. Trayvon Walker, one of the most explosive guys on defensive line I've covered.
Can't miss. I mean, this guy can't miss. He's going to be big time.
You mentioned guys that have that it factor. So if a Georgia fan is thinking, what is Tymon Mitchell?
I like it when a guy can dunk a basketball.
Yeah.
I don't care what position. A guy that can jump up and dunk a basketball, I'll take him.
He can dunk a Buick. Just give you an idea. He's strong.
He dunk a Buick.
Just say, we see again. I'm big on the shot and field events. You watch Trayvon get up there, throw a shot put. He stands in the circle, average technique, and he just explodes out of that crouch and throws that thing a mile. It's like
he's another guy, just Georgia through and through,
and committed early in the process. Silently,
we'll let him over and help Coach Crean too. He can play. He can be. He's a top.
Put him on that low post, he'll be fine.
He's a good player.
So Trayvon Walker, big get. Like I said, we have him as a 4-star, right out. Still very, very highly rated, high 4-star. He's a 6.0. We have a ranging system there. He's just on the cusp of. Heck, he might be a 5-star before all said and done. Remember, the final rankings are February.
Give him one.
When he goes through some of these All-Star games, but Trayvon Walker. That is a big get. I know, people are mad about losing out on Trey Sanders or somebody like that, but if today was the day that Trayvon Walker signed with Georgia, he'd been uncommitted, they'd be dancing in the streets, and that's the type of player he is.
You can't worry about what you lose, but I'm telling you that's one of the most impactful guys we've signed since Kirby's been here, in my opinion, Trayvon Walker.
Wow, and that says a lot considering who they've gotten so far. You were mentioning a guy like a Tymon Mitchell getting through. You're making it through we watched his tape. We watched him in person. We worked him out in camp. We offered. We recruited him. He committed. He signed. There's a lot of steps in there. To make it through that gamut means a lot. Think about it this way. Kirby is he's pulling a kid from Texas. He's pulling a bunch of kids from Florida. He pulls 3 out of Tennessee. He's got 1 out of Rhode Island. You go back.
We got the national brand, though. I mean,
that's
you get that kind of exposure.
You're not going to go to Tennessee and pull out Tymon Mitchell when you have the entire country to choose from, unless you really want them. You're never taking it. Kirby's not taking kids that aren't going to work out. So,
but here's the thing.
I shouldn't say they won't work out. There can be other better players.
Here's the thing he did, though, which we talked about every coach. You look at states that have coaches in flux or coaches that have just got a new coach coming in or have just fired a guy. Well, Tennessee has that situation. They got a new staff. We're a common denominator in the SEC as far as being up there, and you can show, you're playing for championships, and it's out there, as compared to Tennessee selling that, So you go into that state, you pick 3 linemen out of that state, and that's not a big state for players, is it?
No. I mean, that's been the biggest problem. I mean, when Phil Fulmer was there,
he used to come take some out of.
I was about to say he was successful because, especially when he had Rodney Garner, and I saw you pull him away. When he had Rodney Garner and him were coming.
Never hurts when Augusta paper puts Georgia going on probation tomorrow on the National Signing Day.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
When we really weren't, but it was just a bad thing there. But Deion Grant read it.
Yeah, and so you have guys like that who are, they're not born in Tennessee. And you have a coach who can recruit like a maniac, come to your kid, get him to leave the state, go to Tennessee. Tennessee becomes a national power. And then when they did not have that, and the last few coaches, from Kiffin on, they could not recruit at that high level. There's not enough in-state talent to populate a Tennessee football team. So now with Pruitt out there recruiting, things are going to happen. But
he'll get some Georgia guys too. Yeah. But here's the number one thing that Kirby's got in his recruiting at this point now. He's got guys on our team that are stepping up for Kirby Smart.
Yep.
You think Cade Mays talking to those kids from Tennessee doesn't really register with them?
Yeah.
He said, look, I had a chance to go there last year, but I came to Georgia because I want to compete for championships, and I know I'm going to get developed here. There's no question mark. It might happen at Tennessee. Who knows? But I went with the given. That's a tremendous advantage. Yeah. You talk about Devod Wilson talking to Stevenson. Devod played high school football with him. He said, look, they're going to treat me right. I hurt my knee. They did everything possible to get me well, and I've got a chance to, everything they told me they would do. Now, that is the best recruiting you can ever have as compared to, hey, man, this guy has screwed me over ever since I've been here, and you'd be crazy to come here. That's what, that's the difference. And it's all based on what happens, the reality of how you're treated. And our players are our best recruiters. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and you're watching a kid like DeAndre Baker out of down there, who's projected, maybe go in the first round. That's pretty impressive. Let's stay on defensive backs real quick. Another top junior college player, I think number 4, number 5 in the nation, DJ Daniel, defensive back out of Milledgeville, Georgia. Thought he was going to Georgia. He picked South Carolina. The Georgia staff stayed on him. He flipped back to Georgia. He is signed with Georgia. He is practicing with Georgia. 6 foot, 180 pounds.
Well, we're losing Baker, and we need another corner. Although the way things have, Stokes has really come on strong. We got Campbell, who had some really good success, but was picked on some. And then we got some other guys that are going to really develop there at corner. You got Webb, and you got Poole coming back. You got a lot of good players. We were able to redshirt Speed after he got his hand hurt. So
Chris
Smith coming up, but. The bottom line there, this guy, it was a need for us to get a more established guy. And I'll never forget the day that Jake went down there to cover that signing.
Yeah.
And, we were there, but South Carolina wasn't, and he went with him. But I think maybe pleased the coach or something, whatever happened. But when he came back, I talked to Mel Tucker the next day, and he said, well, hey, we probably lost him today, but we'll get him back. And I said, you really believe that? He said, yeah. I said, we'll get him back. So I never said that on the air, but I'm saying it now. Tucker told me that day.
This is the best thing to have you on the air, because all the stuff you can't tell us then, once they're signed, you can't.
But he said, and he was right. He said, we'll get that kid in the end because he wants to be here. And, he's definitely a player too. I mean, just look at him. He's big, physical, can tackle, do a great job covering kicks. Boy, I'm fired up about him.
Speaking of guys who can tackle, who can hit, let's go out to Texas. Lewis Sign, the defensive back out of Cedar Hill, Texas, 6'1", 180 pounds.
Yeah, I was a little worried about losing him, with Tucker going, but the biggest part there is our whole staff was involved with him, and he's going to be a very solid player for us, and can come in and have a shot there because safety wise, we're developing safeties and guys are coming on, but you need a guy that's cerebral back there that knows what to do, and he'll help us out. You get a guy out of Texas like that, it's huge.
Yeah, so you're in Texas.
Alabama pulled a guy out of there and Michigan, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Secondary guy. I hate that for Tom Herman.
I know you.
No,
I can tell you're beat up over it.
It really chaps me. I hate to see them lose players.
You poor thing. I remember coached at Oklahoma for many, many years. So, Rion Davis, we mentioned him. Rion Trouble Davis, 6'3", 232-pound inside linebacker.
Player. Hate that he got hurt,
yep.
But it's kind of a silver lining too because it makes you appreciate what you got when you get an injury. You know what I'm saying? So he'll be okay, and good-looking kid. I mean, really, how did he get that nickname?
I don't want to know how he became known as Trouble.
Well, there may
be something there that we don't. Sometimes you just stop digging, Coach, before you find out something you don't want to know.
You're in trouble, or hey, that's probably. Yeah. But I like a defensive back or defensive linebacker that's trouble, though, don't you?
Absolutely. I want to go to speaking of
one named Sissy or something. Let's go on to the next thing.
The next guy, Tresman Marshall, out of Clinch, the state champion Clinch County team.
He's a vocal kid, but he's also
6'1", 230.
He backs it up, they won it 3 times now? They just got a machine there, but he's a heck of a player and another good guy to fill in on special teams and learn the defense, and I like him.
I'll tell you this about, Kirby was mentioning that they had a lack of, I think he called them knockback linebackers. In other words, I don't need you to tackle a guy and let him drag you 3 yards down the field.
Yeah,
I need you when we at contact is where that run stops. Knock them back. And we saw that in Monty Rice. Monty Rice was able to do that. Roquan Smith was just efficient tackling. But,
glad we're going to have Monty back for this game. That'll help us.
I think Marlo Herrera as the knockback guy,
man, Patrick Garber over there is working hard now. Is he what's he reading there? Is he on Netflix? Or
no, he's typing. He's got a possible commitment story over there. So
who are you talking
Georgia
about?
Georgia may not be done today.
You got a new boy there? You going to break it on our UGA site? On your UGA site?
Well, no, you clip it. Yeah, he's going to let me do
really? Is this really a scam that we wouldn't know about?
No, people know about it. But it could be a plan B for Georgia, so we're checking on plan B there. So
you mean somebody that we would take because we didn't get somebody else?
Exactly.
In a position of need, like running back?
Maybe. That would be a good spot.
I'm just teasing you.
That would be a good spot to have another guy. So we're keeping up. Speaking of a position at need, one guy who has not signed yet, John Plumlee, the quarterback out of Hattiesburg, Mississippi. We mentioned him earlier in the show, but
he's a good athlete for sure, but he's also a good quarterback. You watch his tape. He's very accurate. He delivers the ball. He's a really good baseball player. I used to think when I first started recruiting and it's carried off, you can't get enough quarterbacks on your team because usually, like we talked about, you put the best lineman on defense. You put your best athlete in high school at quarterback usually. We look at Nicole Hardeman played over there, and it's just a guy that understands the game, can when he starts playing another position, if he's a receiver, he already understands coverages. If he's a defensive back, he knows how to read the quarterback's eyes. He's just a good get for us, and regardless of how he gets here or why he gets here, I like him.
All right. One last guy, of course, that's the only guy in Georgia's committed group that has not signed. Another guy who did sign very early. I mean, I think he came in.
Wait a minute. You say he's not signed, but he has.
No, Plumlee has not signed with Georgia, but he is committed.
All right.
There is one more guy on the list of signed players who are actually now official Bulldogs. This guy came in at like 7:20. I mean, like first thing out of the bat. He and Nolan Smith were neck and neck as to see who could be first to get their letter of intent in, and that is Ryland Goad. the tight end out of Kennesaw, 6'7", 240 pounds.
We know we had several players at that school that were coming here early, but he definitely is a position of need. Who knows what's going to happen with Nauta? Who knows what's happening with Luke Ford? His name's on the portal now. It could be a transfer. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, that was a very strong position for us that could be up in the air. So we got Fitzpatrick. We got Charlie Warner. So, and you look at the way we played that last game against Alabama, we played a lot of that personnel with two tight ends, and we got their pull their pants down with that unbalanced four wides because we used one of them as a wide receiver and the other as a backside U, which is just nomenclature there. But the idea was Coach Chaney really likes to do stuff like that, and hopefully we'll be strong enough to have two tight ends can play at the same time.
Yeah, a note from Dash. Only the full-time starting tight ends for Georgia, 6'6" or taller, possibly all-time. Trip Chandler, Leonard Pope, and Javaris Johnson.
Javaris was 6'6".
Yeah.
Good player. I tell you, he's from Alabama, too, from over there. I think close to where Webb's from. Javaris was a good player for me. Hurt his knee the last game against Georgia Tech. Man. Ended up playing in the pros. Boy, what a dog fan he is. He comes over here. He's really big on alumni. His son's a high school player now. And
should we be keeping an eye on his son?
I don't know if he's going to be but I never will forget he came over to my house and he was talking to me about he was doing some fishing in competitive fishing, you know what I mean? I got to hit this story on it. And I said, hey, I got this boy that lives up the street from me that actually sells and, rods and reels and stuff like that. And he said, yeah, what's his name? And I said, Rob Wimberly. He said, Rob Wimberly? He said, he gives me a rod and reel.
That's awesome.
I said, hey, he knows how to go with the best guy, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. I get it. I love it. And that's pretty much
that's a good class.
That is one hell of – again, that's the number 2 class in the nation. And you still don't have, Jaden Hazelwood who could be added.
Hazelwood, Stevenson, Elam.
And maybe an offensive lineman and maybe a running back.
And maybe another quarterback.
Yeah, so, you got some –
beside Plumlee, we might
Well, remember, they're still looking at Doug Nestor, the Ohio State commit.
Which we told them about last February.
Yeah. So, that guy is still on the market.
I think Nestor comes down here in January. He'll fall in love with this place. He's looking at a situation where he's committed to a school and the coach left.
Yeah.
And, he was going to go there and enroll like Webb is.
Yeah.
But now he's sitting back and taking a shot at it. I hope we got room for him because we need a tackle. We got Darnell Wright still could visit.
Yeah.
I'm trying to fill in for what Jake would say, but we got Darnell Wright could come in, and this guy going to do some live work with you here.
Oh yeah, we're gonna.
You got to multitask.
I'll do some stuff with 11 Live.
Does he have some makeup for him?
No, they don't.
He needs a spray tan or something.
No, I need spray hair.
Spray him.
I need that spray hair stuff.
All of us do that.
That would be good. I want to ask a couple. We did have a couple questions come in. Folks want to know what you think about Nakobe Dean.
I think he's a good player, but we're in position in linebacker. It'd be great if we get him, but I don't know enough about what we could put him somewhere. But I think
I'm just saying right now. We talked about 4 linebackers already.
I'd say Ole Miss, based on what I've heard, is in there good. We got a shot. I don't know enough about that part.
David Ruthout says is Elijah Holyfield going pro. We don't know yet. He said, does anybody know? Again, we don't know. He has announced. I did drop this in the 3-2-1 report at UGASports.com when I had a question about one of the questions. It's 3 observations, 2 questions, 1 prediction. One of my questions was who's going to transfer, who's going to go early. I made a couple thoughts, guys I might think would be leaving. I did say this, for the guys who are coming back, they are going to do a ceremony like we saw with Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, Carter and Bellamy, Davin Bellamy when they came back. Smith, they said, hey, we could go pro, but we're coming back for our senior years. I don't know. We don't know.
Got to be but here's the thing for Holyfield. When I've talked to a pro scout last week.
So we're not going to know until that ceremony.
I talked to a pro guy about him because things changed over 15 years ago since I've been here. I said, how much can a guy help his stock playing in a bowl game that might, particularly a junior that might come out? And he said, what you really don't understand is a lot of these guys that are we're considering, we'll go watch them practice at the bowl site, and I'm sure Kirby let them watch, and that helps us too. So it's to his advantage playing the bowl, then get the last kind of judgment by sending out for his grades and see where he projects. The guy's a physical back. He can make the pile move. He's quick enough. He catches the ball out of the backfield. He got name recognition as far as selling tickets.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a shot, but he's going to help. He's got a similar situation to Chubb and Michelle, maybe not highly as rated coming into his senior year, but look at the upside if he would come back, because whoever is lining up back there next year with those road graders up front going to get some yardage now.
And not only
if we didn't win that O-line this year, if we don't win it next year, it'll be a miscarriage of justice.
Then the fix is in, because that is a guy who, that line – they could have won it this year, but you had so many guys get injured, but you replaced them with guys who performed almost as well. So
I would decisions who's going to be the center.
Yeah.
Which are you going to take, Hill, or are you going to take Salyer or Erickson? What are you going to do at center? And then left guard, at right guard. Ben's going to be back. All of a sudden, Mace. And then you got these young guys coming in too.
Yeah, you got Schaefer too. Guys like that. It's going to be pretty impressive. So my point is, Georgia's second string offensive line is going to be better than a lot of teams in the nation's first offensive line.
Yeah.
That's going to be, and if you got Elijah Holyfield back there, that kind of, like you said, the hammer and tong guy, and cutting DeAndre Swift. We saw what happened when Swift was healthy. I know
Swift, and how about Zeus, man?
Zamir White on track to be back there. James Cook lining up in the slot.
Know what Harrigan's going to do?
Yeah.
We got good backs. But
and here comes
how much longer we got?
Well, we actually need to wrap it up.
But I do want to say one thing here about it. I just want to give out a shout-out to Jake Fromm, just because of what he's done under duress here. He's held off 2 5-star quarterbacks, and he's a 5-star guy too, but a lot of pressure on him to keep the job. First of all, taking over like he did, then doing what he did the first year, and then this year with all the clamor and everything. The guy produced, man. He really did, and he did a lot for this program. And
speaking of producing,
give him a lot of love there.
And again, if Justin Fields transfers, and to your point, he will have run off 2 5-star quarterbacks. 2 guys who, from a physical standpoint, had more gifts than he did. But from I'm not going to crack on anybody's work ethic, but from a leadership and winning results department, he's won. From our stats man, Dave says, here's a guy that has completed 68.4% of his passes. That would be a school record if he keeps that his remaining years.
The thing about him, too, is it's hard to win a job and take over for somebody if the guy doesn't lose it.
Yeah.
And he never even got close to losing it the way he performed. And,
he had a bad game.
Well, a lot of them did, though.
Yes, they did.
But the thing about you tell your quarterback is you got to avoid losing first. And that's the number one thing he does.
That
he
sounds
takes
like
great care of the ball. Well, who did he play for? So, everybody knows that. But, I just don't – we're always talking about people that aren't here or leaving or everything like that. And I'm a big Justin Fields fan. I think that things didn't work out for him as good as it should have in a lot of ways. But, the schedule hurt Justin too. We were never in a position where a quarterback had that much heat on him to do, our game, it's hard to overtake a guy that's not making mistakes, and then the other team's not any close games. So, but my shout-outs to Jake for what he's done for this program and his loyalty.
27 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
Right.
That's the third most TD passes in a season right now after 2 years. And he's not even done this year. 51 career touchdown passes.
When's our next show?
Next show will be in January.
Yeah, so, Justin Fields, we don't know what will happen here, but
we'll recap it after the bowl game.
Right, but he's going to be, wherever he goes, he'll do well. And he's a good kid. He's really – you can't blame him. Why would you sit around there? And you can't project what's going to happen, but you base it on what has happened. If he hadn't played by now, what makes you think he's going to play in the future, right?
He's making the exact same decision Jacob Eason did.
Right.
And
but he's not.
If you were fine with Jacob Eason transferring and you're mad about Justin Fields transferring, that's on you. Because
but people say the one thing I keep interrupting. People say, well, why did he come here in the first place? He came here thinking he could beat Jake out. And nothing wrong with that. He wanted to come to Georgia.
You want those guys.
Yeah.
You want a guy who
remember how we
win.
talked about last December, hey, why is he coming here? I said, because he wants to come here. He wants to compete. The same reason Zeus came here. He knew we had those backs. And he came here. So, hey.
James Cook, hey, you're going to get Zamir White. You've got DeAndre Swift. You've got Elijah Holyfield. I am James by God Cook, and I'm coming to play, and I'm going to win.
This is a place to come if you want to win. I mean, Alabama, Clemson here. Come to these three places. I mean, I'm not going to talk about Alabama.
I'm going to say the same thing about, this Dwan Mathis kid. He's like, you've got a guy who is a freshman, took you to the national championship game, a guy who took on Alabama in the SEC championship game. He is an entrenched quarterback. I'm going to go learn from him. I'm going to go compete against him. I'm going to be that guy. So Plumlee, Mathis, guys like that are coming in, good on you. Again, and for the quarterbacks, it's not like a defensive lineman. They can play 3, 4, 5 defensive linemen. There's only one quarterback, so they are a different breed. But we're going to end the show there. The last thing I want to tell you, when you get a chance over the holidays, please, for the love of Pete, if you want good food, you can always come by Champions. You can swing by Your Pie. But also give Academia Brewing Company out on Atlanta Highway a shot. They have the best beer around. We love their beer, but they also have a chef out there, and they do fantastic work. And as a personal appeal, if you have a bunch of people, and Coach can talk about this, he will attest to it, when you have a family gathering, sometimes when you say, hey, where do you want to eat? One person wants Mexican, another person wants Italian, somebody wants to go to a buffet. There's all these different tastes.
Hey, I went out there before I even knew that they were sponsoring the show, and
you can take 13
it's hard
people.
to make my family happy.
Exactly. You can take 10, 12,
people.
13 people out there, and everybody will get something different.
I always do.
I know. So you can take care of all those people with very different tastes because the chefs out there do fantastic work, and there's probably 47 different types of beer, too. I mean, I can't keep up with them all. They put out a new list every day because they change that fast. So if you get a chance, swing by Academia. And, of course, this is our year-end show. Next Tuesday is Christmas. The Tuesday after that is New Year's Day. We're going to come back the following week. I think maybe January 8th would be the first show back.
Man, I'm going to be in the fetal position without all this. But,
thanks for watching our show.
Here's a scouting report on Texas.
Oh, you got a scouting report. Give it to us.
GATA.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we're going
I've heard
GATA.
This will not surprise me. I think Georgia's going to go right at Texas in the Sugar Bowl. Shout out to all you fans who are going out there. If you're driving, flying, be safe. Have a very Merry Christmas, a very Happy New Year. Thanks for watching our show. Be sure to tune in January. We're going to have Coach Donnan will be back. If we'll beg him, plead, get him to come back. Roos will finally be back. And shout out to Jake Roos for actually being on the road working. We're sorry we didn't get to a lot of your questions. A lot to cover today. We might even do a couple live chats or something before now and then.
Hey, that's okay.
All right, so thank you very much for listening, and check out 11 Live Sports later on. They're going to have more for you.
That's it for this episode of the UGA Sports Live Podcast. Tune in next week for more Georgia Bulldogs news and notes from Athens.